There is a memory you are absolutely certain about. Maybe it is something that happened in your childhood. Maybe it is a conversation that changed everything. Maybe it is the moment you first met someone important. You can picture it. You can feel it. You would stake your reputation on it being exactly the way you remember it. It is not. Not because you are lying. Not because your mind is broken. But because memory does not work the way you think it does. And the gap between how memory actually works and how confidently we trust it is one of the most unsettling discoveries in all of modern neuroscience. Memory is not a recording. That is the first thing to understand, and it is harder to absorb than it sounds. You have been living your entire life as if somewhere in your brain there is a library, and inside that library every experience you have ever had is stored as a file, intact, waiting to be retrieved. When you remember something, you go to the library, find the file, pull it out, and play it back. The memory is either there or it is not. If it is there, it is accurate. None of that is true. Memory researcher Elizabeth Loftus has spent more than 5 decades studying how human memory actually works, and her findings are among the most consequential and most ignored in the history of science. Her central discovery is this: every time you remember something, you are not retrieving a stored file. You are reconstructing it. You are rebuilding the memory from fragments, filling in the gaps with whatever seems plausible, and then storing that new reconstruction as if it were the original. The act of remembering changes the memory. Every single time. This means the memory you have of an event right now is not the memory of the event. It is the memory of the last time you remembered it. And the time before that. And the time before that. Every retrieval is a rewrite. Every rewrite drifts slightly from the one before. By the time a memory is years old and has been recalled dozens of times, it may share only a structural resemblance to what actually happened. Loftus demonstrated this in a now famous experiment known as the Lost in the Mall study. Participants were given a booklet describing 4 childhood memories, supposedly provided by their family members. 3 of the memories were real. One was completely fabricated, a story about getting lost in a shopping mall as a child, being found by an elderly stranger, and being reunited with the family. About a quarter of participants not only believed the false memory but began to elaborate on it. They added details. They described the stranger's clothing. They remembered how frightened they felt. The memory felt completely real because to them it was completely real. Their brains had constructed it and filed it as genuine experience. That experiment should stop you in your tracks. Because if a memory of something that never happened can feel as vivid and certain as a memory of something that did, then the feeling of certainty is no guide at all. Confidence in a memory tells you nothing about its accuracy. Cognitive neuroscientist Daniel Shatter at Harvard University identified what he calls the 7 sins of memory, systematic ways in which memory fails that are not random glitches but predictable features of how the system operates. Among the most important is what he calls suggestibility, the tendency for memory to be altered by information encountered after the event. If someone describes a car accident to you and uses the word smashed instead of hit, you will remember the cars as going faster. If someone mentions broken glass that was not actually there, you may remember seeing it. The language used to ask you about a memory changes the memory itself. This is not a weakness unique to certain people. It is a universal feature of human cognition. Your memory is not isolated from the world around it. It is continuously being rewritten by conversation, by photographs, by other people's accounts, by your own changing beliefs and expectations. Every time someone tells you their version of a shared event, your memory of that event shifts slightly toward theirs. Every time you look at a photograph from a moment you lived through, your memory of the moment begins to be replaced by the photograph. You have probably experienced this without knowing what to call it. A childhood memory that you have always held with perfect clarity, only to discover later that the photograph you remember was taken years after the event you think you are remembering. Or a vivid recollection of a conversation that the other person remembers completely differently, not because they are lying, but because their reconstruction and yours diverged at some point and kept going in opposite directions. This divergence is at the heart of why 2 people who lived through the same event can give completely contradictory accounts and both be telling the truth as they know it. Neuroscientist Julia Shaw at University College London, who has spent years studying false memory and its consequences in legal settings, has shown that it is possible to implant a detailed memory of committing a crime in a person who never did anything of the sort. In her studies, participants who were told by a researcher that their family had confirmed they had committed a minor assault in their early teens began, over a series of interviews, to construct and elaborate memories of an event that had never occurred. They did not do this deliberately. The brain, presented with a confident external account and asked to search for supporting internal evidence, found what it was looking for. It always does. This has consequences that stretch far beyond psychology experiments. Eyewitness testimony, which courts have treated for centuries as among the most powerful evidence available, is built entirely on the assumption that memory is a reliable recording. It is not. Studies examining cases where DNA evidence later exonerated convicted individuals found that in the overwhelming majority of wrongful convictions, the most significant contributing factor was mistaken eyewitness identification. Not lying. Not malice. Simply memory doing what memory does, reconstructing rather than retrieving, filling gaps with plausible details, growing more confident with each retelling even as it grew less accurate. The emotional weight of a memory makes this worse, not better. You might assume that the more significant an event, the more reliably it would be encoded. Your brain would surely pay closer attention to the important things. But research on what psychologists call flashbulb memories, those vivid, high-detail recollections of moments of shock or significance, shows that they are subject to exactly the same distortions as ordinary memories. People who remembered precisely where they were and what they were doing when they heard major news events were found, when their memories were tested months and years later, to have changed their accounts significantly without being aware of any change at all. The memories felt unchanged. They had been altered. What this means for your own life is both unsettling and quietly liberating. The version of your past that you carry with you is not a faithful record. It is a living document, continuously edited, shaped by everything that has happened since, filtered through who you are now rather than who you were then. The childhood memory that explains your relationship with your parents. The old friendship you remember ending badly. The moment of triumph or humiliation that you have carried for years. All of it has been edited. Some of it may have been invented entirely. But here is what is strange about this. Your edited, reconstructed, partially invented past is still yours. The story your brain has built is the story you have lived inside. It shaped your choices. It formed your identity. It is not less real because it is not perfectly accurate. A painting is not less beautiful because it is not a photograph. What changes when you understand how memory actually works is not the past. The past is gone. What changes is your relationship to certainty. The fierce conviction that you remember something exactly right. The absolute confidence in your version of events. The certainty that you know what happened. These are feelings, not facts. And feelings, unlike facts, can be gently questioned. Elizabeth Loftus said that memory, like liberty, is a fragile thing. You have been trusting yours completely for your entire life. You probably should not stop trusting it. But you might want to hold it a little more lightly. There is a memory you are absolutely certain about. You can picture it. You can feel it. You would stake your reputation on every detail. And somewhere in the version of it you are holding right now, something has already changed. You just cannot see which part.